You're watching the Chucktown Wind Report, Friday, December the 18th update. Let's talk about winds and weather for today and into this weekend. First of all, I want to mention the Toys for Tots drive that we're having for today. It's called the Santa Jam, and we're going to be riding kiteboarding out at Fort Moultrie from 11 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. and accepting toys. So even if you don't ride, we'd love for you to stop by with a toy and drop it off in one of the boxes that we're going to have out there. Aaron Walton and I will be sort of manning the area, and feel free to swing by at any point there and drop a toy off. We're going to be taking all of them to the Isle of Palms Police Department about 4 p.m. and touching base with the staff there. So hopefully we'll have a big turnout for it. We'd love to add to the many, many toys the Charleston area has given to the kids already. So Merry Christmas to everyone. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about the weather for today. Looking at the surface map, we have this pesky cold front that is sort of lingering over our area this morning. It's starting to make its way off the coast, and some of these rains and showers are starting to taper off. So I would say within the next couple of hours, we'll see most of that rain ending and maybe a few isolated sprinkles here and there. The big feature right now is out west, where we have high pressure wedging into the area, and it's got a westerly flow to it. So we're already starting to see some of that westerly flow now enter the area, and that should build as the day goes on, or as the late morning progresses. For tomorrow and into Sunday, this high pressure is going to slowly drift across the northern Gulf states and then end up over the Carolinas, the central high pressure over North Carolina, maybe even down in South Carolina. That means the winds will weaken on Saturday. We'll probably see a clocking effect of north over to east. And then as that high pressure lifts a little bit up into this area, we could see a little bit of we may have a chance Sunday, depending on where this center goes. If it's further north, we're going to get an east-northeasterly flow into our coastline. The further north it is, the stronger the winds will be. So if it's up into North Carolina, Virginia, we could see low teens and possible mid-teens east-northeasterlies. If it's further south over North Carolina and over us, we're likely to see a weaker wind field, probably stay right at or below 10 knots, maybe a couple of low teens pulses. So not a very active weekend as this high pressure settles over the Carolinas. But we'll look at the GRE on radar. You can see these rains and showers sort of ending in the Charleston area. There's a few lingering spotty showers and some activity. If we look at the infrared, and we'll zoom out just a little bit, we can see some of the clouding and some of the residual troughing back behind the actual front is going to be kind of sticking over the area as well as westerly winds work in. The high pressure is just so far removed, it's not ready to make a push for all of this troughing behind the cold front. So we're going to be stuck with a few clouds. You can see on the water vapor imagery, a lot of this cloud activity may stick around or linger through about midday to afternoon. So probably the chances of rain go down after this morning, but we'll probably continue to see some of that cloudiness. If we look at Datascope for Charleston, here is some of the readings. Now Folly Beach is showing a west-southwest 15 knots. There's a few gusts going on out there, and that's part of the cold front struggling to keep that southerly element along the coastline, and the westerly winds will ultimately win out. But you can see these westerly pulses kind of coming up into the 20s for gusts, and then as we get into the Charleston Harbor, where the cleaner wind will be once the westerly winds kick in, we're already seeing pulses to upper teens and into the low 20s for the gust period. So we'll be expecting more of that as the morning goes on. Those gusts, or the pulsing, will start to be more consistent, and the winds will come up and stay up at some point, probably around 8 or 9 a.m. is when I expect that to happen. If we look at our details, let's look at FlowVis first. This is the 3 a.m. plot. This is the North American Model 12, or the NAM 12. By 6 a.m., we're seeing that southwest struggle to the westerly flow. And as we get to 9 a.m., we see the westerly flow start to inundate the coastline. A lot of this has to do with topographical features of the Appalachian Mountains. So as that cooler air up high settles down into the southeast region, you get this downsloping effect from the Appalachians down the upper mountains and foothills through the mid-state and all the way down into the coastal floodplain of South Carolina, and that's how we get that sort of cold air advection effect, and that's what increases the gradient over the area, as the cooler air is settling at a faster rate. And then as we get later into the morning and even into midday, we see the wind field remaining moderate. And this should last throughout the entire day along a west or west-northwesterly wind field, and that's what this model is actually keeping, that west-northwest flow. So hopefully we won't see that full northwest turn. That tends to get a little squirrely out there at Fort Moultrie, but I think we'll hold just fine. We're looking at probably about, I would say, 17 to 21 knots for today, and we may stay about on the lower end of that, 17 to 19 knots. but I do have some medium confidence that we'll get into the 20s today. So we'll see what happens there. As we get to our details, you can see the models bringing up to the upper teens. These models may not be factoring in the cool air advection process and that, so we may be actually getting up into the 20s. If we look at our 7-day model forecast models, you can see this low teens pulse on Sunday, where that high pressure to our north. So that's going to be dependent on where the center of high pressure is placed. For today, we're showing 17 to 18 knots off the GFS with gusting up to 24, 25. So we could probably add a couple knots. I'm saying 17 to 21 knots with some higher gusting. We may even gust into the upper 20s and near 30 knots. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that. Our high tide today will be at 1:10 p.m. and let's check the sea surface temperatures real quick before we sign off. If I can get it to come up here. And sea surface temperatures for the area are looking like we're probably closer to 60 degrees. I thought maybe it warmed up a degree or two. So we're looking at about 60 to 61 degrees for our sea surface temperatures. And that will do it for the Chucktown Wind Report. We'll see you today on the beach. Thanks for watching.